BernieDawg here, and I've got a couple of Optimus 8R stoves that I'm going to look at today and have you look at. I'm going to hopefully show you how to put them, or take them apart, put them together, how to make them work. This is one of the most common stoves in America. They sold thousands, maybe millions of them during their era, early 60s to mid 80s maybe. And there are just tons of them, and lots of people bought them back in the day for the big backpacking craze. All right, let's get to work on these. Okay, so this one has its parts in a bag. I don't know why. We'll get to that in a minute. Let's look at this one first. I'm going to pop it open. Here inside your case, we have some pot supports. This one's kind of loose. I'll be fixing that. I'm going to pull those out.
So then just take your stove open and carefully pull on this tab so you can remove the tank. And then the heat shield also comes off easily. It's just held in place. Both the tank and the heat shield are held in place by those detents that you can see right there. I got an extra jet. I'm not sure what that's all about. And then you have it apart.
Just kind of set our case aside. Here's the stove. There it is. That's really all there is to it. Now let's talk about what happens with this stove. Here we have a tank. It's brazed, silver brazed together, or copper brazed, bronze brazed. It's brazed together, so it's very sturdy, very strong tank. There's a fuel cap. And in this stove, what we rely on is that this tank gets hot from the heat that's coming alongside this tube, is conducted through this tube and heats us up, and that increases air pressure in the tank. The air pressure in the tank will make the fuel go out through this tube and into the burner. All right, and then we have the burner arrangement. All right, so let's take a look. This little pan here is used to put either fuel or denatured alcohol. I prefer denatured alcohol because it burns very clean. To preheat this thing to get it hot enough so that it pressurizes the tank. Let's take it apart. First easy thing to do is just unscrew the bell, the burner bell with its burner plate by hand. Next thing, let's go ahead and undo the fuel cap. Now, this is the single cause of stoves of this sort that don't work, is because this fuel cap gasket gets old with age, and when they get hard and brittle, they no longer seal, and if it won't seal, it can't develop pressure. So I'm looking at this gasket here right now, and I don't think I've been here before because it's pretty hard. I'm taking this dental tool, a really nice tool to use for stove use, for probing around. You can get them on eBay for real cheap. There's a really great place called Widget Supply. Try them. All right, so how do I get this gasket out of here? Well, set the stove aside well away, and then you can take your little micro torch and just, well, here, let's not hold that. That would be dumb. And just get a little fire in there on that washer. Not a whole lot, just a little bit, and get it a little smoky. You can still hold on to this. See, I haven't done it so it's quite so hot that I can't hold it. It's almost too hot. But once you do that, it softens up that gasket. And now you can take your dental probe and just kind of use it as a cutting device. Get one end kind of broken loose. There, like that. And you can pull it out. It may come out in pieces for you. In fact, there's a piece that I had that came out with mine. But yeah, this is, see, it's not very squishy, flexible. So it's not, and as it's cooling off, it's actually getting harder now. Oh, this is just brittle over here. See, look at that. I just break it. See, so that gasket is no good. That's the first thing you want to think about with one of these stoves, is replacing that gasket. All right. Now, I have a whole nother video, and you're probably seeing a link to it right now up on your screen, where I talk about how to deal with these safety valve release caps, safety release valve caps, SRVs. This is a little valve in here, and it's designed so that if your tank gets too pressurized, it'll release some pressure. And there's a plunger, and you just want to maybe take some item and make sure the plunger is working and try to judge if that's resilient. This one is pretty resilient, and I'm not going to work on it in this video, but you can go check that other link that's on your screen now and check the video for how to deal with these and how to repair them. Okay? So we're going to set that aside. What else we got? All right, I'm inside here. There's a wick, and I noticed on my other stove in its little Ziploc baggie, there's an original wick. I'm not sure what's going on over there, but this is an original wick, and this fits up, this metal part goes up inside that tube. All right, and if these are allowed to burn dry over time, this end here can get all charred. So let's take that apart and see how our wick is. Do you have to do that? No, probably. I wouldn't advise doing it unless you felt like your stove wasn't working well. Oh, and another thing we can do real easy is just spin our spirit cup off. Easily removed from the stove, just like that. Now, to remove this from the tank, you need to get yourself an 11 millimeter wrench. Now I'm using a brake line wrench because they work really well. Notice how they are going to go mostly around, completely around. Yeah, there you go. All right. So that really means you're not going to mess this up. Using something like an adjustable wrench, you're probably going to have more problems. All right. So to remove this, put this in here and just go ahead and loosen that puppy up. And
the thread that's on the valve body here is a 36 thread per inch tapered pipe thread. Now that means as you tighten it up, it gets tighter and tighter and tighter, just like the plumbing pipes in your house. And that's what makes a leak-proof seal. There's no gasket necessary. But that's a unique thread only found in this situation. You can't find taps or dies for it. It was made specially just for Optimus. The other thing is that wick. What's the purpose of it? The wick's main purpose is to draw fuel from the bottom of the tank below where the fuel pipe leaves the tank. That's what it's there for. It also has some other purposes, but its major, like most of all purpose, is to draw the fuel from the bottom of the tank. It's a lot easier to make a wick than it is to have a little fuel feed tube hanging into the tank. It's a cost measure.
all right, so here's our original wick, still in the stove. It's slightly damp. And to remove it, you can just grab the little wire. There's a wire in here, just like the other one. See, there's the wire. You can just grab the wire firmly and wiggle it out, and there you are. Now this one's in good shape. Look at that. There's hardly any charring. So I'm going to reuse that. I'm not going to worry about it. If you needed to make a new one, you can check my video on how to work on a Svea 123R. It's a different stove, but I show in that video how to make a wick. You make the wick there the same way you would make for this stove. So there you go. Now look what we got. This is our stove body, basically. It's got all the goodies here. This is what makes your stove work. Fuel comes in here, goes down here, it gets hot because of the heat that's on the burner bell is conducted down into the base of the stove. That makes the fuel vaporize, and it's going to come out the jet. Now, how about taking this apart? What do you want to do? Okay, well, if you don't have a lot of tools, you could use this handy wrench right here to remove. The first thing you'd want to do is remove the jet, and that's what this is here for. This is to remove the jet on your stove valve body. So just put that on there and turn it counterclockwise. Wow, that's really on there. Let me get a better angle at it. I'm going to try it like that. No, don't want to go that way either. Boy, is that on there. Ah, there we go. You heard it pop. Okay. So I had to use more leverage than I would have liked to. Okay, we're going to remove the jet. Now the jet is removed. La-di-da. Last thing, we're going to want to finish disassembling the stove, we're going to remove our spindle nut. That's what this guy is here. This is our spindle. That's our spindle nut. And again, this little wrench is designed to do that. This one's not very good. They're stamped out, so they don't always... Yeah, that's a really crummy one. Here, I've got another one. Yeah, see, that one fits. So if they're not stamped accurately, you might have to deal with that. Or, even better, just use a 10 millimeter wrench, and you're good to go. So we loosen that up. That comes off. Now that you have that off and that there's no jet, you can go ahead and remove the cleaning needle and the spindle.
Okay, so we have the valve body with the spindle and the cleaning needle still in place. We have removed the jet and removed the spindle nut. You have to remove the jet before you try to remove a cleaning needle, otherwise you will damage it. So make sure you remove that spindle nut and the jet first. Now, you can remove the spindle with your control knob, or if you have a later stove, you may have, instead of a control knob like this one, you may have like a flat key to do the same work with. But basically what you're going to do is you're going to, whether you have a key or this spindle knob, you're going to go ahead and turn it counterclockwise, and you will see the cleaning needle will come up out of the valve body and it'll drop right out. And then you can go ahead, continue turning counterclockwise, and you will get that spindle to come out. Now the spindle has a graphite on it, so you're going to get some resistance as you do this, and you may need to grab the spindle shaft like this and go ahead and pull it right on out. If you don't do it in this order, what can happen is you will damage the gear teeth on the cleaning needle or on the spindle by forcing the cleaning needle into the jet, which is still in the stove. So always make sure to remove that jet first. Otherwise, you will damage the cleaning needle or the teeth on the spindle and the cleaning needle. You have two more parts that are still on the spindle here. One is the round tubular shaped graphite, which acts to seal the valve body of the stove so no fuel leaks out or fuel vapor leaks out. You can carefully remove that. And underneath that is a metal ring. Now this metal ring has two sides. Just slide it off. It has a flat side and it has a side that's kind of dished out on one side. That graphite goes against the dished side, the dish in the ring, which also corresponds to the dish that's on the spindle nut. And those two work together to smash down the graphite so it holds tight against the shaft of the spindle itself.
So I've got both these stoves taken apart and ready to do something with. What do I want to do? Well, that's kind of up to you. If this kind of stuff on your tank is bothering you, maybe you get some brass polish, polish that out. I like Mother's mag and wheel polish, works really well. Basically dip a rag into it, rub like crazy, make it clean. So I'll go do that and I'll be back. And anyway, but they're both ready to go for cleaning or reassembly or whatever.
Watch reassembly in part 2.